Sure. Great.
This is the sweatshirt, by the way, that I'm getting to.
So you'll have 3.
It's pretty sweet. I kind of need to because I always get food stains on them because I'm a slob.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I'm digging it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to a blockbuster episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name is Eric, and I will be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Russell Crowe's The Pope's Exorcist. That's not exactly what it's called, but you know what I mean, John.
He didn't direct it. Let's just,
Well, he owns it. Let's say that.
It
Next up tonight, joining us from Manhattan, New York City, please welcome John Schnars to the show.
Hello.
And next up and lastly tonight, from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
Boys' night, fellas.
Woo!
After all that highfalutin talk last week, I was like, I need a dumb movie and I need to get with my boys. And here we are.
Your Elizabeth was sassing you a little, just a little one level sass too much. Just, I get it.
You know.
I mentioned I'm going to be on vacation for the next 2 shows. So this is
forgot.
it, boy. This is the, it's like the bachelor party.
Well, this is
before
perfect then. I forgot about that, and I'm now sad about it all over
Now you just ruined the vibe, John.
again.
No, but we got to, let's get it all in now,
You know what they say, Casey? If you love something, you have to let it fly away or something.
Let's set it free.
You're right, and then if it comes back, then it's really yours. So get back to me in 3 weeks. We'll see how I'm feeling.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Why waste any more time, John? Let's get right into it here and review The Pope's Exorcist.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the front time. Main feature.
John,
Yes, Eric.
you know what the kid looks like in this movie?
I mean, I'm worried.
He
about what you
looks
might say.
exactly like if Mick Jagger were 9 years old.
Oh,
It's important to note, I don't mean whatever 9-year-old Mick Jagger looked like. I mean take whatever 80-year-old Mick Jagger and just shrink him down to a 9-year-old. This is exactly what he would look
well,
like.
it's like if they have this like de-aging technology that they use in
like
the
they did with
films.
De Niro.
But they were just like, you know what? Crank it to 11.
Yes.
Take Mick Jagger to 8.
And they're like,
Let's
hey,
see.
you remember like the beginning of like Captain America? Give him that body. And then
Yeah.
Mick Jagger's DH head. Boom. Possessed. Pretty amazing.
I love this kid.
He's
whatever
working
this
it.
kid's doing. Yeah.
Whatever's going on.
Well, all right, we'll get into it, but I'm also very curious. I haven't had a chance to research what they did with the voice, but there is a very specific actor who.
Oh, it's a whole other actor. We're not talking like Linda Blair.
But I'm curious if you all think it's the exact same actor that I think it is. I can't remember his name, so I'm gonna have to like.
If
Google
only
it
if only there were a web repository.
No,
that would
but I
give
don't.
us that
Well,
information.
I didn't.
Wait,
look
you
on
mean that
IMDb.
wasn't the kid's voice?
Yeah. Well, but it also wouldn't shock me if they like let the kid do the reading and then
Oh, I'm sure they did. Yeah.
did all
Which
kinds
yeah.
of wacky shit.
we can
to it.
get to it means that kid said some colorful things.
Oh my god.
More than so than I
Unreal.
was expecting. John, speaking of colorful words,
Mm-hmm.
please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, catechism. That's CATECHISM, catechism.
As a lapsed Catholic, I know what this means, John.
Well, I almost would challenge you to define. Let me put it. I'll read the definition. This is not like I didn't 100% know what the word meant, but this is not exactly what I would have defined it as. A summary of the principles of Christian religion in the form of questions and answers used for the instruction of Christians. A series
What?
of, and then sub definition, but it's basically a series of fixed questions, answers, or precepts used for instruction in other situations. So it can be more general. Comes to us from the Greek. I'm not even gonna try. Like, this word has so many different letters and sounds, but then through the Latin catechismus. Catechismus. Yeah.
And what does that have to do with this movie, John? Tell me about the Pope's Exorcist.
It's been a little while since we've seen a movie that is as Jesus-y as this movie is. Specifically, like how
Like
Catholic
Jesus
it is.
in like a high five sort of way. Like we're high fiving about how
Oh,
awesome his power is.
No. Like we'll get into it because, well, I have some
Like
positive.
if you were to
vibes
tell
for
me,
this
if
film.
you were to tell me that the Vatican perhaps bankrolled part of this, I
That's
might believe you.
that is exactly what I was going to say, which is like it presents the Pope's Exorcist, who's the main character, and we'll talk about a little
It's
bit
like
of that
someone at
backstory.
the Vatican was like, "Are we really gonna let this James Wan and this like Ed and Lorraine Warren just gonna suck up all the air out of the
Yeah.
room here?"
No, they present this Amort, Gabriele Amort,
Ugh.
as basically like the first Avenger.
Yeah,
of-
Avengers. Yes,
Yeah,
the very end
of-
is such Marvel.
Dude, they go into like a high-tech library in the
Yes.
Vatican, and they show them like a map that's obviously
Like,
it's like the Zelda map.
The
It's
only
like-
thing that was missing was Sam Jackson.
yeah. No, what are you talking? But they had the Black Cardinal
Oh,
that they
I do-
introduced
okay.
as his
Yeah.
helper. Like,
I don't
yeah.
really see, race usually, John,
No,
but
I
I
know
see.
you
I
don't,
understand
yeah.
what you're saying.
He is introduced earlier in the film. So,
Oh God.
yeah. So, all right. So the background here, and again, I didn't have. I don't know, Casey, if maybe you read up on this because I'm almost positive Eric didn't. This is based. It is credited as based on a book by this exorcist. His name's Gabriel Lamart. He's a real person. He claims to have performed. He died in
Past
2016.
Yeah.
He claims to have performed over 100,000 exorcisms.
160,000.
I saw 100. I didn't know if that was a typo when you sent that, but in any
No,
event,
I saw that on Wikipedia.
I assume, like, to get to that number, he would have had to exercise like 20,000 people at a stadium at some point or something.
So I actually did read up a little bit on that tonight before we got on here, just out of curiosity. And by the time he died, he claimed that he had like somewhere between 100 and 160,000 exorcisms. But when you get into the details, he also claims that sometimes people can be possessed by more than one demon at a time, like sometimes up to thousands.
So
that's how he's upping his number.
This is like some Wilt Chamberlain BS.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Well,
and just to add to that,
Yeah.
though, from what I have read, he is a real person. He was a priest. He was an exorcist. The story in the movie is not based off of any of his cases, from what I've read.
it's so generic that who cares,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It's whatever.
For sure.
But he's a real guy. He really wrote a book about exorcism and being an exorcist for the Pope. The way that it's structured is he was appointed by the cardinal of his parish as the exorcist for that parish. He happened to be from Rome, so the Pope is the cardinal of Rome, and therefore, like, he's the Pope's exorcist. In the film, so the main character here is played by Russell Crowe. I'm just gonna put it out there, amazingly so.
Pretty
Like, just
good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
incredible.
Yeah.
I'm so happy with everything that's happening in this movie
right.
for him.
I'm right with you.
Yeah, so that is like why this movie got made, as Eric was saying. If you told me that this was funded by the Catholic Church, hard agree. Like that would not surprise me. Did you all clock who the director was?
I
No.
don't think I even paid attention.
Uh-uh.
So I only looked this up after, but I was very curious because, like, it has a weird style to it, like a fun kind of zany style. Director's named Julius Avery, previously covered here on this podcast as the director of Overlord. Remember Overlord?
Yeah, I can kind of
loved-
see it now.
I loved Overlord.
World War II zombies. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's
It is
Australian.
this is a pretty movie.
No, and it has that
Decently
same
so.
sort of like zany
Mm-hmm.
action nonsense going on at a couple
Even
points.
before much had happened in the beginning of this, I was like, why does this feel like an action movie? Like, that's so interesting you say that.
Yeah, so he's Australian, as is, our boy Russell.
Boy.
This movie was made for $18 million, which kind of blows my mind, primarily
That's impressive.
because of the setting and this, like, it is. So most of the action, just to cover it, we'll try to do this quickly. It's a very basic exorcism movie with a lot of plot around it, which is to say there is this boy, Henry. He's like 10. His mom moves him and his older sister to an abbey in Spain, like a defunct abbey, like a decommissioned abbey. It's no longer being used by the church. It was owned by her husband's family. The husband died tragically, leaves them this abbey. And it's like, we don't have any other resources or money, so we're going to move to this abbey. We're going to fix it up, and then we're going to sell it. And that's like how we're going to live. And then we're all going to move back to the US. So there's a little bit of this like family fish out of water. That explains why they're living at this like ridiculous venue, which becomes the setting for both basically the entire film. There's really only 5 characters. It's the family. There's 3 of them. It's Amort, played by Russell Crowe, and then his helper, whose name I'm forgetting, and I don't have it in front of me if someone has it, but he's like the most generic white guy priest you've ever seen in a movie.
Father Escabel.
Yeah. Again, like fine, like good performance by that guy, but not anything to write home about. Like he's not, I didn't pick him up in any specific way. I don't think we've seen him, or if maybe if we have,
But no, actually, we've seen him a couple times, actually. He is played by Daniel Zovato, who we've seen in It Follows and Don't Breathe.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was also in Station 11, which is a whole different TV series, but pretty prominent.
All right. I mean, again, but like he's good. But so that's it. There's 5 characters. In the background, you have all this like political nonsense that's happening at the Vatican. That sort of doesn't matter, although it comes into play certainly at the end of the film and with the sort of like macro plot that's happening. But that's about it. I don't know. I mean, we can talk about Russell Crowe and what they're trying to do here with Father Amort. But yeah.
Casey, what do you think, Casey?
So I watched this about a week ago, and I texted you guys when I first finished it, just kind of saying, woof, this is really dumb. And that holds up. It is really dumb, but I've softened on this movie from my original walking away from it. It was when I first watched this, I had a breakdown in that third act where I just kind of started rolling my eyes, and it just didn't hit me well, but as I get away from it, I'm not a big Russell Crowe fan overall. I could take him or leave him. I thought he was really good in this. I was watching this halfway through because at first when I saw he's going to be an Italian priest, I'm like, oh Lord, here we go. All I could think of was Les Mis. But it's like, hey, he's actually really good at this. And that was nice. Everybody is pretty good. Another known actor in here was the mom, Alexa, I think it's Alex Esso.
Yeah.
Was in Starry Eyes, and she's been in a bunch of other stuff since then, since we covered it too. But so yeah, I like this. This is movie. Eric, you mentioned it in the plot, and John pointed on it. This movie's got way too much plot, and I think that's where I got bogged down in this towards the end, because it's so much to try and keep track of by the time you get to the end, and things are getting super cheesy. I think I'm having a metamorphosis and kind of swapping places with Eric on CGI monsters recently, between this and that one for Evil Dead, I think it was Evil Dead Rise, where we disagreed on that. Other than that, it's okay. I'm glad I watched it. I might watch it again sometime just because it's goofy.
John.
Yeah, for me, this is a perfect example of really, really low expectations being fairly well exceeded. I do not want to sit here and say this is an excellent movie. It's not a great movie. This is a movie that knows exactly what it wants to be and is kind of delivering it as well as you could ask for it to be delivered. The thing for me about this that and I didn't know this, and I had not watched the trailer. The only thing I knew about this was that it outperformed I believe Renfield. Wasn't it released the same weekend as Renfield? And I think it actually beat it at the box office.
I think so, yeah.
And I was kind of like, where the fuck? Like, I don't even know where they marketed this movie, because typically, especially walking around New York City, you like see billboards. Like, I didn't see anything for this movie. There may have been like a little bit, but it certainly was not. I wasn't like clocking it in a way that they were like making a big push. And then it sort of outperformed. It's rated R. And like, God bless them. Like, these are the folks who watched The Conjuring and they were just like, what would be cool with The Conjuring if it had like a bunch of swearing and like random nudity in it.
It took me by surprise. Absolutely. Yeah.
Eric hit on this. Like, there's this kid. The kid is the person who is, it's always
Mick
a
Jagger.
kid who's possessed. Yeah, 8-year-old Mick Jagger. He
8 or 9.
he says some filthy things. Like,
Yeah, he does.
This demon, this is not like PG-13.
It's like
I'm the devil and I'm angry with you.
It's like they took what Reagan said in The Exorcist and put it into Chat GPT and we're like, hey, make this 4 times filthier. Exactly.
Yeah. Look, this movie, you hit on it. There's a couple, like, this thing is not doing anything original in the Exorcist space. It is taking a lot of the tropes of exorcism movies, including The Exorcist itself. Like, very directly. And then just saying, like, fuck it. What if we did that crazier? And so I was there for it. I thought the last act actually was like completely bonkers and like in a way that I was like there for it. You don't know what's going on half the time. Like, the demon, we talked about this in the past. Like, I get a little annoyed when the rules of the universe are not clear. This fucking demon can do whatever it wants. It is like strangling people. It's like lifting people off the ground over here. It's like locking people in rooms over here. But it also, like, this is a movie where they're basically telling you, like, hey, don't worry too much. Like, yeah, this demon's fucking crazy.
If I'm being honest, John, I blame the Wandaverse for this kind of demon power inflation.
No, but like, what I'm saying is, like, I'm here for it, because like, if you're gonna have demon power inflation, just be like, fuck it, yeah, the demon can do whatever it wants. At no point, this movie is never really scary, but I also don't know that it's like trying to be that scary. It's more like horror action movie at a certain point than anything else, with like just cranking up some of the gore nonsense to 11, at least by exorcism movie standards. It's certainly not like on the same level as like an Evil Dead or anything, but yeah, so look, I had fun. Russell Crowe doing the accents. He speaks like 3 to 4 different languages in this film. I don't know what, like, I'm not even here to say like the accents were good or bad. They're just kind of ridiculous at a certain point. The Pope, I don't know if y'all saw this. Franco Nero is the actor.
Yeah.
He was the original Django. He's sort of like an icon in Italian cinema. So I don't know. They're just doing a lot of like hammy, crazy nonsense in this movie. And I was there for it. I was going to say, Casey, you mentioned like it getting, to me, the place that got a little slow was in the middle, like the second act.
Yeah.
They're doing so much shit in this movie. And I just like zoned out for a hot second. But otherwise, I was like more or less with this the whole way. It's probably 15 minutes too long. Like, they could have trimmed this.
That's
a great way to. That's real quick, Eric. That's a great way to put it, though. I think I zoned out in that same spot. I just never really fully recovered on that when I was watching it. That's why, at the end, it's kind of like, whatever.
Yeah. It was kind of perfect to get this thing. I knew it was when it came up. That's why I was like, let's do it. After my like rant last week about just wanting to turn my brain off, like, which, I get.
How dare you make me think?
It's not everyone's speed, but like, man, when I tell you this was exactly what I needed this week, it is reasonably pretty to look at. It's pretty breezy. Russell Crowe is just chewing the shit out of the scenery, and so is this kid.
Yeah.
Like, what kid actors, like, your mileage may vary, but in 2020, the year of our Lord 2023, John, I try not to go in too hard on kid actors. Do I think he's scary? No. Is it really funny to hear some other voice actors' voice come out of him and say really foul things? Yeah. Like, if you have a movie buddy that likes dumb movies, man, like, cue this thing up because there's a lot of material.
Well, the kid is so like specific. I mean, you've made the point with Mick Jagger as an 8-year-old. Like, he just has a very
part of it is they've
specific
given him a real dumb, like,
yes.
Hollywood kid haircut. No kid has this haircut that he has. Like, it looked like he just stepped out of a studio, like, makeup booth or something. It's just
he looks like he's got like a gorilla's haircut, the band.
yeah. So the other thing when you talk about it having a lot of plot, the thing to mention is that the exorcism and the family that the exorcism is happening to is a side note in the whole thing. Like, the movie is really about Russell Crowe as this, like, of course he's the puckish rogue priest who, like, there's a token scene in the beginning where the mean priest, who reminds me of the space Nazi from the Star Wars prequels, the redheaded dude, he reminds me of, like, a bootleg version of that. Little less snivelly, but same kind of vibe. Like, who's like, basically like, this is a stupid old thing that's not real, and you're doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, of course, because you got to throw that in, you got to make him like a rebel. But it really has no bearing on that whole movie. Like, there's another token scene like an hour and a half later where they cut to that guy, and he's like, what kind of trouble is he in now? And you're like, I don't know. So, like, it's just, the movie is really about this larger demon conspiracy that, like, the
Spanish Inquisition.
Oh, well, that side note, put a pin in that,
Okay,
John, because I need you to
yeah.
explain to me about that.
But
the possession is merely a tool, we learn later, of this specific demon who wants to get Russell Crowe, this is spoilers, to this, like, now haunted basilica.
Abbey.
Is that what they called? Abbey.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
sure,
It just sounded like a fancy religious place. Like, the demons want to get him there to possess him specifically so that they can, like, wield his power as demons. And, like, and there's all this stuff about the Spanish Inquisition, and in the 1400s or something, this same demon was trying to resurrect, like, because what we learn is that the Abbey, that when the Bible speaks about lots of angels being struck down and being sent below the soil, that's like corporeally real, and that this is one of the places where the angels were sent, because they discover, like, a dungeon. People who haven't seen this movie right now, their heads are spinning. But, like, we discover the underground dungeon where these, like, angel bones are, which
I think
we can
there's
talk.
only one of the demon. Like,
Is that
yeah,
not
what
what all
you're
the dead
saying-
bodies were?
no, they were just Spanish Inquisition bodies.
Yeah,
Because, man,
it was like an ossuary.
much like Game of Thrones, they missed a real opportunity here to have, like, a creepy skeleton army rise up out of that ground. Like, how did that not happen? How, John?
Well, they had, it was not a humongous budget.
And then
they
it's
were
like,
working on.
so it's like you can barely keep up with all this information coming at you. And then at the very end, for it to open up like a Marvel movie, and the guy's literally like, there's hundreds of these sites across the world. And, like, they're staring over a map, and like, it's crazy that they're hardcore, like, franchise setting this up. So it's wild. It's really silly. It's not amazing. I think it's too long at an hour and 45 minutes.
No,
Like,
it's definitely too long. Yeah.
I much prefer a clean 90. We know this about me, but this movie.
And I just think there was a lot of fat in there. Like, even some of this narrative stuff could have been handled, like, in a more trim. Like, I would have traded more exposition dumpy version of some of this stuff. I mean, it's a little exposition dumpy at times anyway.
But
just to trim the overall runtime.
But the counter argument is that when we get to the big fight at the end, that's also too long. I'm just like, I don't really care at this point. Like,
Right.
Well, it also,
It
The
drags
big
on
fight
so
ends
long.
up being. I liked. Okay, so what ends up happening as Eric is setting up, this demon is possessing this boy to lure the exorcist because he wants to then be in the body of the exorcist to then get to the Vatican and then infiltrate the Vatican, which was, and this is like a conspiracy theory thing. I mean, maybe this is like based on something else, but the Inquisition, the premise here is they discover that the Inquisition, which was caught, again, I don't know the exact history of the Inquisition, but basically they're like reading these old, manuscripts they find in the basement of this abbey. And it's like, oh, Father Jimmy, who was Queen Isabella's right hand person from the church, was actually possessed by a demon. So when he convinced her to do the Spanish Inquisition, that was actually a demon convincing her to do the Inquisition.
I thought that was pretty interesting because, like, what it does is hand wave all of this stuff that's happened in history is like, the devil did it. You didn't know it.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah,
100%.
All this like bad stuff that humans did. I mean,
Well-
I get that that's like the divide between like religion, not religion, but like
But then,
It was
Russell,
interesting.
the like even further discovery is Russell Crowe is like, oh, but also the church knew that was a demon that did the Inquisition, but hid it because
Right.
they didn't want to make the church look bad, and so it's like layers of conspiracy on top of
It's
conspiracy.
Yeah.
crazy. John, I'm gonna admit something to you right now.
Mhm.
I don't really actually know what the Spanish Inquisition was. Could you elevator pitch it for me?
I mean, I'm not like an expert, but I believe it was basically a version of like the Salem witch trials, but like went on for hundreds or
So
800
trying
or hundreds of
paranoid,
years.
trying to weed out like non-believers or something.
But it was more towards the Jewish folks, right?
No, I think it was like everyone. I don't think
I thought it was
just-
a Catholic. Okay.
It was a judicial institution that lasted between 1478 and 1834, so it's like 70 some years. Its ostensible purpose was to combat
14 to 18 something.
14. Oh, I'm sorry, that's 400 years. Its ostensible purpose was to combat heresy in Spain, but in practice, it resulted in consolidating power in the monarchy of the newly unified Spanish kingdom. Its
Yeah.
brutal methods
Yeah.
led to widespread death and suffering.
It was like the kind of thing where they would like torture someone and be like, "We heard you were acting against the
Right,
church.
right,
Like,
right.
tell us 3 other people who were acting against the church."
Yeah.
It's like
And
that
then you
movie
would, and then
we
they would kill
watched,
you.
Devils.
Kind of, yeah.
Sure.
Kind of.
Well, yeah, that is the Spanish Inquisition, so you're right.
Yeah. So the
Here you go. In reality, the purpose of the Spanish Inquisition stemmed from the Christians' fear that the growing Jewish population would become more powerful than themselves. The Jews were a threat to the monarchy, and the Catholic monarchs saw the Inquisition as a way to root out the source of one of their biggest problems.
It was also demons,
Yeah.
maybe.
It's
Just
like
as a,
the
For
demons
complete
did.
honesty, I only do that because Mel Brooks' Spanish Inquisition is
Well, I
my
know
favorite thing ever.
Well, it's like I know the joke, and I know it as like a reference that people make, but I don't. I'm just listen, John.
yeah.
You don't have to know everything. It's okay to admit when you don't know something. I like to represent that contingent for people because I want people to not be afraid out there to just say, "Hey, I don't know this thing, Mr. Schnars. Could you explain it to me?"
I didn't want
Yeah.
to be the person who you were putting on the spot and being like, I don't know anything about it. But,
Well.
clearly I didn't.
Too bad.
So, all right. So where I was going with this though is the demon lures the exorcist. Then the whole game, the Exorcist, and this I can't remember. I don't think this is in. I mean, it's come up in other Exorcist movies, but not maybe The Exorcist. The Exorcist game is to figure out the demon's name, because once he knows the name, the specific name of the demon, then they can actually exorcise the demon. So that's sort of like the detective story that's going on with Russell Crowe and his buddy. The demon is trying to use their own sins against them. By the way, their sins, not that aggressive. Like, as sins go, like the one guy like was a priest, but like maybe like lusted after a woman one time. I don't know. And then like Russell Crowe, there was like a woman he was trying to help, but then he didn't help her and she killed herself. And it's like, bro, if you're gonna hold that, like if you're trying to help people, like sometimes it's not gonna work out. And if you're gonna hold every one of those against yourself,
It,
like you're gonna be in trouble.
it really is insane that there's nudity in this movie. You reminded me because both of those storylines, that's where we get it from, right? Like the demon is giving them visions of these women and they're nude. Because this movie just from every pore of it exudes PG-13 horror movie,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
not what it is, and it's like such a. It just
Well,
I don't know what it is. It's just not what you're expecting going in.
The demon is very violent. So like this demon isn't just like giving you a bruise, like poking you till you have a bruise. It's like throwing the mom and the daughter all over this house.
Yeah.
It's like slamming them against the wall, like picking
It's
them
very
up, and choking
which
them and stuff.
Which Insidious was it where Lin Shaye was like body slamming
I
further
think the
ghosts?
second one.
Third
Yeah.
one maybe it was like that.
Yeah. But no, and so then it's like the game is that it has to convince, it wants to possess Russell Crowe, but he basically has to like accept the demon. Now, it's a little absurd. Again, this is where like you get into like the plot holes are enormous. Because the demon can do whatever it wants. So it's basically like torturing everyone until Russell Crowe is like, yes, please, like enter me, demon. But then it enters him with the idea that it's going to like use him to get into the Vatican, but it also like makes his eyes black. Like he like no longer like looks healthy or acts normal. So what is he just gonna like wander into the
I
Vatican
was
at that point? Like,
confused. Right. Even going back all the way to the beginning of the movie, you just kind of reminded me of this. He seems so shocked when he discovers that the boy is genuinely possessed, which is weird to me because, like, aren't you I understand, like, he explains in an early scene that a lot of people are not actually possessed, even though they believe they are, and that he just needs to kind of psychologically lead them in the right place. But I'm still to presume that he's met real demons before. But then when this demon kind of reveals itself it's stupid. Like he's just like, he knows his name. Russell Crowe freaks out, and I'm like, aren't you this badass exorcist dude? That scene also doesn't make sense because he doesn't react until the demon says his name. But like 30 seconds before the demon says his name, the demon says to him, I'm not some idiot you can trick into going into a pig, which is a direct reference to the first scene of the movie. So like,
Yeah.
why was it the name? That was just maybe that was editing or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, I didn't think about the comment about the pig during that scene, but I just took it as, that was how he knew it was a real demon, because the demons would have the power to know his real name for whatever reason. I mean, it's demon shit, right?
demon shit. That could have been the subtitle of this movie.
It could have.
The Pope's Exorcist, colon.
Demon shit.
Yeah. What else was the other thing I wanted to bring up about Russell Crowe? And so the climax, right? He gets possessed. He's like wrestling, and like we see this, it's set up earlier because the boy, there's a moment where they like sort of knock the demon off kilter, and then they're like, Henry, you gotta reject the demon. And so Russell Crowe is sort of like having a similar internal battle between him and the demon. But then the demon becomes externalized, and then they're like two evil women, like sin, ciphers are like fighting them, and it does become like a WWE tag match.
I know. And
with the demons.
Again,
I love
but
the
that's the
visual
moment.
of the fire pit, the like lava pit was a
that
cool
was
visual.
that was cool when the blood lady like turned into boils for a second and then exploded.
Yeah,
that was
and
pretty cool.
exploded. Yeah. No, awesome.
They
Very
did
good.
in this like lava vortex scene, I think, really miss an opportunity for like a bunch more stuff to come out, but that's just me. There were
I think
skeletons
they were
everywhere.
picking their battles.
John, do you know what?
Battles.
John, do you know what the greatest scene in the history of movies is?
Oh God,
It is
you're gonna
the
tell me, I guess.
the ending scene of Bedknobs and Broomsticks when Angela Lansbury animates medieval armor to fight invading Nazis.
I thought you were gonna say Jason and the Argonauts when the like skeletons are running.
Also, very good. I love a good animated skeleton, especially if it still has on its original garments. That's a great effect. They just missed out. I'm just saying. Don't tell me there's a bunch of bodies down there and not animate them.
Yeah.
Fair.
This
But-
movie had everything else.
Schnars mentioned the little kind of bumper we got at the end, hinting towards them franchising this thing out, because we find out that there's hundreds more sites like this, and the church is sending those two after them to take them out. So they could franchise. My first thought is, if we're going to get more goofy demon hunting action movies, I'm kind of down for it, honestly.
I mean, I kind of had the same thought. Like, I would watch. Now,
Yeah.
make them, again, clean 90, but sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Eric made the point earlier. Like, we've got the Conjuring verse with Ed and Lorraine Warren. Like, this is a more
Now,
suitable package for
The
me.
thing,
of
and I
that
wonder, did you
version
happen to look at
of
the
what they're
box
doing.
office, John? Because that's the only problem is, like, you can crank a Conjuring movie out for like a few $1,000,000, right? But like,
Well,
Yeah.
the scope of the effects and the sets and the actors, like, it's going to cost money to just churn these.
no. I looked at it. So this was they spent 18 million on this, which I believe is more than the first Conjuring, but the second Conjuring was pretty expensive. The second Conjuring budget, I mean, those movies made a fuckload of money, so no one's complaining. This movie made 70 million bucks so far. Like, that's
Yeah.
so budget for Conjuring 2 was 40 million. So this was half of Conjuring 2. Now, Conjuring 2 did 300 million at the box office. This has done 70 in 3 weeks. It's
Dang.
probably done. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it
Um,
kind of gives us a little bit of, it gives me a Catholic Indiana Jones vibe, right? With your main
Yeah, I mean,
protagonist,
yeah.
with the thought of a franchise.
way
around it.
more
Dude,
like
I'm
it's way
into-
gorier.
I gotta
Oh, yeah.
say, I'm into old man Russell Crowe with the beard and the Italian accent. Like, it's doing it for me.
Well, the thing we haven't mentioned is this movie's kind of funny. Like what Russell Crowe is doing
A
is
little
meant
bit,
to
yeah.
be funny.
It's a shtick he's got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's drinking. Like, he literally makes this point about, like, he's like drinking whiskey out of a flask at several points in the movie. That's like a meant to be a joke. No, it's tongue in cheek. You know, like, I don't think any of this movie is meant to be taken too seriously, and they sort of signal that to you pretty
Yeah.
early on.
Uh,
Well,
Well,
the first
and-
sequence is he gets the demon to jump into a pig, and then they show the pig's head getting blown off. Like, it's crazy.
Honestly, they perfectly explained away the funniness of this movie and the way he's acting, because he tells Father Escobel at one point, he's like, "That's my favorite thing to do if it's a demon or whatever. If if I encountered Satan, I tell him a joke. He hates jokes."
Yeah. Because he does. He's like
Yeah.
yucking it up with the Henry demon.
Levi on YouTube says the sequel is already in development.
Yeah,
Now-
that makes a ton of sense.
Writer strike. Couple
Yeah, I
more
mean, that's
bank
gonna delay it,
failures.
but-
Like, maybe
No,
not.
I mean, they're not developing anything. If they had a
Yeah.
script done, they could be making it right now. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't think they got too much written on that one ahead of time, just because you probably couldn't have predicted this one going so well.
but the beauty of this, and it's similar to The Conjuring, right? It's like there's a ton of scripts, I'm sure, floating around that can be shoehorned into. Oh, you had a exorcism movie. What if Russell Crowe was the Exorcist? You know, and
Yeah.
it was a Father of Mort franchise thing.
Or you had
So-
a ghost movie. What if your ghost was a demon?
Yeah. So
All right. Anything
Julius
else?
Avery, though, I'm down. This director, I'm here for.
That's
whatever
an
he's got cooking up.
did he do anything in between those two movies?
There's another movie he did called Son of a Gun that I think is a Australian movie. It has what's his name in it? I was just looking at this. Son of a Gun's his first movie, then Overlord. Oh, he did a movie called Samaritan, and like I had seen this movie. This was like a direct to Amazon, like Amazon Prime. It's Sylvester Stallone. It's basically
So he did something. He did one movie between those two.
well, and Samaritan came out in 22. Like, it just came out recently. It's this Samaritan movie. I read the description, and it sort of sounds like what's the Bruce Willis, the second M. Night movie, Unbreakable.
Oh, yeah.
It sort of sounds like that, where Sly plays like a over the hill like superhero who's like in hiding, and then becomes like a crime fighter whatever.
I remember hearing
I
about
might
that
go
one.
watch it though because I like this director.
Yeah, I mean the action movie elements of this are fairly subtle. I mean, they're not like jarring for an exorcism movie. He really works them in and combines them really well, and I'm kind of surprised how well it works just for entertainment.
Well, and Eric mentioned the like exploding demon at the end. There's like one other really gory shot. I can't remember what it was, where there's like a blood explosion, and you're just like, well, I mean, the pig getting shot in the head was pretty
Yeah.
gory.
Well, the mean priest gets blood vomited in the face too, which is funny.
Yeah, by the
I
Pope.
I popped pretty hard for that. Yeah.
That's the Pope
Right.
who's like become possessed by reading a note that he found in a book, and then blood vomits all over. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Pretty
The blood
good.
vomit. Yeah, that was also
But
like it was like neon red blood. It was like not even attempting to be like looking like blood.
Well, I love too is all that stuff started happening around the Pope and stuff, and that one bishop or whatever that was the modern bishop that didn't believe in the biblical monsters and heaven and hell and stuff. They had a quick shot of him in the background, basically going, "Ee!"
Well, that he was the American.
Yeah.
All the other folks are from like other parts of the world, and I'm pretty sure that was the only American cardinal or whatever. So, yeah. Good times, guys.
Love it.
If you had told me a week ago that I would have been pretty pumped to be watching the Pope's Exorcist, I would have called you a fucking crazy person.
Isn't life neat like that sometimes?
Yeah,
John?
sometimes it works out.
Surprises you.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch it again. I've really kind of come around on it.
Now again is getting a little crazy, but I understand. Casey, would you recommend this?
Yeah, I think so.
John,
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm also gonna say yes. I don't think I got plenty of room on my top 10 list. I could put it in there just for shits and gigs, but like,
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
It's
would
not
be
going
a
to hang around.
it would be a sad year where it would stay there. And the last couple of years, I do feel like we've gotten to like June, same point in the year, and I've been like, I don't have enough stuff on my list, and then it turns out to be fine. But I'm getting a little worried.
Yeah.
I
so,
wouldn't.
you know.
I wouldn't worry.
All right, y'all. That's gonna do it for our review of the Pope's Exorcist. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Don't fall asleep, John. John, you been playing that new that there's Zelda?
Guys,
Zelda.
That's how they say it in Boston, Casey.
I considered telling you I was too sick to do the show so that I could play Zelda. Let's just put it that way.
Man, is this where I out myself as the only person who played Breath of the Wild and didn't like it?
I mean, you know,
I never finished it.
I'm not
if there's
even
something clearly broken in both of you,
Right.
then
I'm not even going to get
that's
into
fine.
it because the people who love that game refuse to hear anything negative about it, and I don't want to get into that river. But
You can say whatever you want negative about it. I'm just gonna be like, I don't know.
I will say that the building stuff in this new one looks cool, and I do like messing around with systems like that.
Yeah. It's I mean, look, like it might be the last video game I ever play. Like it could, like if you told me in 15 years I was still like knocking around on this game, I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense.
Stop it.
I just like I don't have like, I mean, all I have is a Switch. So like unless they release like a new Switch and like a new Zelda, maybe I'll play that. But otherwise, you know,
Interesting.
dude. I went back and played Breath of the Wild again. Like it was probably like a year ago, and then I played it over the course of like 6 months, just because like. It's just great. That's all I need. I don't need anything else. I'm very content. It is like, well, it's like you. I mean, I did do a Stardew Valley replay recently. You know, it's like that. It's like I got the games that make me feel good. I don't need
gotcha.
other games. So,
I
but this
very much understand that.
anyone who liked Breath of the Wild, like this is better than Breath of the Wild. It's sort of like it takes Breath of the Wild and then it like does even more.
Now,
and
here's my
there's,
one
like,
question:
more
how
information.
fast does it ramp you up with stuff like stamina and doodads and powers and stuff? Because the progression in the first one annoyed me.
Well, it's very similar to the first one in that you get the powers in the beginning, like the basically like
But they're not
the
very
first.
powerful.
Well, I mean, in the first, I don't know. We can get into
Like,
it.
is it accelerated a little bit? Is my question.
Not, I mean, not really. I guess I'm not even understanding when you say the powers. Like, there's like 4 like game mechanics like that you like learn like, but that's it. Like, and it's very similar. Like, you have 4 of them, like you
The
did in the first
stamina
game.
thing, just whatever, John. I told you I didn't want to get into this, John. Jesus Christ.
Well, but like that's all like a gameplay decision. Like, you can go ramp up your stamina by just like hunting shrines if you want. Like, you don't have to.
I don't do puzzles either. That's my other thing. I don't like
Oh
puzzle games.
well, okay. That's like 80% of Zelda is like puzzles,
Yeah.
basically. So
I like the puzzles and stuff and the game mechanics. I struggle with open world games.
Oh, see that? I'm very into open world games, but I do have specific tastes in what they are.
I get hung up on worrying if I'm just exploring and finding stuff. I'm like, well, what if I stumble into the area that's too high? Then I'm going to get frustrated, or I'm going to find one that's too easy, and then I overthink it and I just put it down.
guys,
I'm glad you're enjoying it, John. I haven't really.
you just gotta let yourself ease into it. That's what it's all about, you know.
Yeah, I'll try it again some point.
In
If it
fact,
ever goes on sale.
let's wrap this up so I can go fucking keep playing. What are we doing here?
Damn, bro. All right, fine. One email this week from Gina. If you could live in any horror movie, what would it be and why? Live in a horror movie? How about Pee-wee's Big Adventure? Because when I was a kid, I always thought it was cool that one dude had a swimming pool in his house,
Yeah.
even though he was mean. Francis.
I was trying to
Yes.
think of like a sci-fi horror movie that had like cool tech, but like if I didn't have to be part of the horror part, I could just like live in the other part of the world. Is like kind of cool.
Prometheus.
Yeah,
Little shiny sci-fi.
yeah.
They
yeah.
have pods that you just get into, and it just fixes whatever you got going on.
That would be cool.
I mean, in the same vein as Schnars, that there was that movie of Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. They're out in space on that generation ship.
Did we cover that? I know what movie you're talking about, but I couldn't remember what we watched.
I can't remember. I was thinking
Dude,
that too.
I saw an insane trailer today for a Jennifer Lawrence movie. I do not know what it's called. It is an R-rated comedy
Yeah.
where the story is that she needs money so she doesn't lose her house, and so she agrees to like fake date an awkward 19-year-old and be given a car by his parents. And by date, I mean bang, basically.
Yeah.
Just an insane 2010 looking movie.
I haven't seen the trailer, but I've heard of this movie, and it was being compared to, you remember Bad Teacher?
Yeah.
Similar kind of vibe.
It's
yeah.
well, and that movie did really well. It's like, dude, it's really
like
hard
Bad
out there
Teacher,
for comedies.
It's like Bad Teacher plus that movie where the porn stars like took kids to prom. It's like those two movies mashed together is what it looks like.
It's called No Hard Feelings, but it does look pretty hilarious.
That's
I
the
don't.
J-Law.
Was it like
That's
the girl?
the J-Law movie.
Was that movie like The Girl Next Door or something?
Girl
John?
Next Door, yeah. With
Yeah.
Tim Oliphant and Emil Hirsch.
Elisha Cuthbert.
Elisha Cuthbert.
Yeah.
That was a good movie too.
Speaking of Elisha Cuthbert, I saw The House of Wax for the first time yesterday.
Ooh, nice.
What?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Dude, so that came out, I think 2004, 2005. We were in college. We were at Beach Week. We were all super hungover because we had been like drinking for like several days. Everyone
Week,
was
bro.
like, they were like, hey, we're going to go see, remember Ridley Scott made, I think it was called Kingdom of Heaven. It's like a 3-hour.
I've heard of it.
They were like, we're going to go see Kingdom of Heaven. I was like, cool, but I'm too hungover for that. I'm going to see House of Wax instead. And
Wow, I
went
love
and
this.
saw-
Baby Schnars picked House of Wax. I like.
Dude,
that.
I saw it by myself. I mean, come on.
That's a good part. That's a nice new part to add to your mythos.
I was deep. I was pretty deep in the horror, but that was one of the first times I'd probably seen a movie by myself because they were all like, really? What, you're going to go in there? And I was like, fucking House
The
of
thing
Wax,
is,
yeah.
I don't know what I would have thought of it at the time because at the time I didn't watch it for a reason. I'm sure, like it just looked like whatever, but it was pretty
It's not
entertaining.
good.
No, it's
not
bad,
good.
but it's pretty entertaining and it's a
Doesn't it
nice
have,
little. It's a fun little time capsule.
Paris
Paris Hilton.
Paris Hilton's in it, yeah.
Yeah, and then
There's
a bunch
some,
of
I
like
remember, doesn't someone get stabbed in the eye? Isn't there an eye
a
stab?
bunch of teen show
Yeah, I
actors
think
from the
so.
time. It's like Supernatural dude and One Tree Hill dude whose name is missing me at
Yeah.
the moment.
Well, that was also a wasn't that a Universal reboot of like an old Universal property?
It was
Yeah.
not Universal.
But not you.
What? It
Might
was
have
an
been.
old Vincent Price joint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I thought that was one of the Universal House of Wax. In any event,
Like,
yeah,
who directed that? Let's look it up.
Andre.
yeah. I was just looking. House of Wax is Jean Colette Serra. I know that name.
1953. It was a remake by Warner Bros. Of their 1933 film. Oh,
Warner. Okay.
Mystery of the Wax. So it's been remade multiple times. That's interesting.
So House
Yeah.
of Wax director has since brought us Orphan and The Shallows.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
nice.
I wish I had known that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Guys got it. What can I say?
No, he's in the fam. We're pro that dude.
Casey, what do we got on Twitter tonight?
All right. We only got one tweet this week.
Hashtag Ask BGH is how you tweet us.
You betcha. Ask a question. We'll give you answers. This week comes from @WellHorror from over at the Well Adjusted Horror Podcast. Tooth pull or colonoscopy? What is scarier?
Oh, I would say colonoscopy, mainly because I haven't had
Colonoscopy.
one.
I've
Versus-
literally canceled one colonoscopy out of pure anxiety. So yeah,
Colonoscopy
which
does
is
not
like,
scare
you
me.
know what? I'm an adult. I don't have to do here. So here's part of the thing. It's actually not the procedure that scares me. It's the prep. If you've ever read through those prep things,
Yeah.
I can't do it. They're like, drink 150 gallons of this stuff that's going to melt your insides. And I'm just like, I don't think I can do it, guys.
Yeah.
My dad, when he does it, he refuses to do the whatever the like laxative is. So he has to go on a full liquid diet for 5 straight days before he does it. And he does it. That's what he does every year. Just
Good
doesn't
Lord.
eat like a psycho. Like, how
when
do you do
a
that?
liquid diet? Can you have like the protein shakes?
No, I don't think protein. There's 2 different cuts. So there's like, so what they do is for a few days before you do like what's called like a generalized liquid diet, which is you can have like rice cereal, which is like pablum kind of, and some things like that. And I think you can have bone broth or something, but it can't have any fat in it.
Gotcha.
Like no fat.
Yeah.
And then for the 24 hours before, it's like pure, you're on like Gatorade, but even that's like only certain colors. Like you can't have certain dyes. I can't do it, John.
Yeah.
I don't know. They told me I had my physical like a week ago, and he's like, "Hey, colonoscopy at 45." And I was like,
Well,
Huh?
I have family history too, so like I need to, and I have stomach issues.
yeah.
So
I haven't done mine yet,
my
but
mom's in the hospital for her colon right now, so I think I have family history.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's not great.
I've gotten the guilt lecture a time or two from my doctor, so I need to get one scheduled.
I'll do it. But
in fact, I then missed a follow-up appointment for some stomach stuff, and they're now charging me like $100. So fuck them.
Oh, damn.
I don't well, whatever. All right, we don't need to get into it.
What?
I just like, did you make the appointment and didn't go?
When I canceled, they're like, well, you still have this follow-up about this other thing, because I have multiple stomach problems.
Sure.
They're like, you still have this follow-up about this other thing. Do you want to just keep it? I'm like, yeah, fine, sure. So it was like not really on my radar, and I just completely forgot about it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
I literally remembered I missed it when I got the bill in the mail.
well, and then usually they're like, just so you know, we have a cancel, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Cool.
Didn't you?
That's
want
it
to know
for
all that?
yeah, this has been colonoscopy chat.
That's right.
All right, that's it for tweet, Eric. Anything on Instagram?
Well, let's check it out.
Do you have like logging into Instagram music that you want to play here, or should we just?
The Inquisition. There's that Inquisition.
I mean, so many of these are just jokes. Would this have been better casted with Brock Lesnar? It's a trick question. Everything is better with Brock Lesnar. Who's scarier, Russell Crowe or the Devil? Russell Crowe seems like the kind of guy that would have a drink with the devil. I don't know what that means, and I stand by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. Is Russell Crowe like, has he been canceled or something? Like, should we not say nice
Probably.
things about him?
I don't know.
He seems like a cool hang. I mean,
I mean,
if
he
you were
seems
like
like
in
the guy.
Australia, you would call Russell Crowe and be like, "Hey, man, like, where's a cool place to get a drink?" And
He
I bet
seems
he would
pretty
know.
down for whatever. if you know.
Yeah, but he also seems like the type that take you out for a good place for a drink. But if you don't keep an eye on him, it could get out of hand.
Well,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm. Are you hoping this becomes a franchise?
I'd be okay with it.
We're here for number 2.
I agree. Who is the Pope's exorcist? To which I replied, "Now that's the one you want. You want the one that he relies on." You know.
Well, that'd be Father Escobar, wouldn't it?
What was the
guess.
last actual good themed exorcist movie? They always seem terrible to me.
Oh, I don't know. Not that one with Anthony Hopkins. That's for
I mean,
sure.
the last one I can pull from my brain immediately is The Last Exorcism.
Oh yeah, the Last Exorcism is great.
Yeah.
I will also accept that one scene in This Is the End.
Is Last Exorcism the one with the blonde gal that was like hanging above the bed, bent over
Yeah,
backwards?
it's like a found
Yeah.
footage joint.
That's a good one.
I mean, The Conjuring, we were ripping on them earlier a little bit, but like the Conjuring films are like well made. Like obviously your mileage will vary based on the film, but you know,
I don't know. I can't accept that because that would then mean you have to accept the Warrens as exorcists, and I'm not down with that.
well, it's like what? Yeah, but if that's not what they're doing, what are they doing? I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Eric,
Here's a completely random question, John. What is your favorite date? Not
Like,
calendar date, like
Oh.
a thing you might do with your lady friend. What is a
don't know.
date? We're all old, man.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
my wife and I get to go out like just the two of us, like twice
Okay,
a year.
Here's a question. Here's a hypothetical. You're out there, John. You're out there, okay? And you procure a date with a fine lady.
Mhm.
Is movie good choice or bad choice? Because the problem with the movie is you're not having a chance to talk.
No,
Yeah.
Like it's a little awkward, right?
it's not first date. Like
Right.
you don't,
Yeah.
you know, no.
I'm assuming you got to start with like a coffee date or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or like a restaurant, like dinner,
Yeah.
lunch, yeah, whatever.
I want alcohol to be involved. That's for me and for her.
We know,
Yeah.
John. We know.
For-
Please note,
Right.
my wife and I have been together for 30 years. I got nothing.
I mean,
No, I love a good dinner. I'm a dinner date kind of guy. I'm basic. I'm a basic gentleman in that way.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my problem with a big dinner date, John. You kind of weighed down afterwards, if you know what I'm saying.
I mean, you know,
Mental
Eric, you just
equal.
you gotta pace yourself.
Power through.
I do think, and it's something I haven't done yet just because we're lazy. I would be down. I think a great date right now at my age would be me and my wife. We got a lot of those arcade bars or barcades that have opened up around Indy. I think that'd be a blast. Go to like a pinball
Yeah.
bar and play games and have a couple drinks.
I agree. Are we about to see bad horror movies being released because of the writer's strike? Now, is nothing even being shot right now? Is everything just ground to a halt?
No, so things they just can't do writing right now. So if you have a
But
finished
there's no
script,
other unions holding out of like solidarity. That's the part I wasn't clear on.
not yet. The
Not yet, there's
directors
Individuals are.
Yeah, but even that, like, I mean, if things were like in progress, I don't think people, because like, you know, if an actor is like, oh, I'm not going to work because of the writer's strike, like that fucks over all the, you know,
Right.
the gaffers and the camera people, like everybody down the line gets screwed. No, so like a lot of the studios stockpiled scripts. The issue just becomes if you like are shooting and you're like, oh, we need to change the script, like that's where it gets tricky. Like,
You can't get a punch up.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't. Now, like, can you edit it in post? You're like, technically, you can't change the dialogue. I don't know exactly what the rules are,
Right.
but like,
There's
my
lots of
understanding,
rules.
you can't change the dialogue. But like, if you shoot what you have that's actually on paper, and then after the fact, you like edit it or move it around, I think that's okay because the director can sort of do that, or a
Interesting.
producer, but
It
you
begs the
cannot write
question-
new dialogue and things like
It begs the question: how many studio changes, end up being what the bad thing was? Like, is it better? Like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The thing that's fucked first is TV, because like that stuff isn't on like a more rolling
Quicker
production
turn.
basis, and
Right.
like that stuff gets like rewritten a lot more sort of as it's on the fly. Like there's a lot of movies that have been stockpiled and like will be released over the next like 6 to 8 months, and then there's a lot of scripts that may or may not be able to be shot.
mhm.
But
But
especially
the directors
that-
and the actors are about to start negotiating as well. And like if those go sideways, like then you're gonna get a full shutdown, because then the other guilds won't work and so on and so forth. So
yeah, it's hardest on because like it's killed SNL's season this year.
Well, yeah,
Those
and all
live
the-
shows and whatnot, because those are you sometimes like changing dialogue the day of.
yeah, well, the late night shows, like they write that show every day.
Yeah.
So they're done.
Does anyone actually enjoy religious horror, or are we just chasing the Exorcist dragon still? You know who I think loves religious horror? I think normies love it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. We've gotten into this in other episodes, so like whatever. We don't need to like I mean, and I'm sure it'll come up again. I kind of hate it. Like I usually don't love it because it's just like it's like magic, right? It's like, oh well, anything is possible. Like, and there's a bunch of that happening in this
Right.
movie.
And I imagine if you're a more religious person, it might be more, I don't know, scary. But I'm also sure there are people that are not religious people that just enjoy it for whatever
Well,
reason.
it's I'm okay with it if it is like internally consistent, and this movie like is internally consistent enough. It's wacky, but internally consistent enough to like work. No, like the whole thing about like holy water makes the demon scared, but then like the demon isn't scared. Like the end of this movie hinges on them putting those like special symbols that they have like on their foreheads, and then the demons explode. Like
my thing is
who
like,
fucking knows?
but it's not just exorcism movies. Like if the Wandaverse has done one terrible thing to the genre in the last now like almost 15 years, it's that there's now like a little bit of religious stuff and everything. Like those movies aren't technically possession movies, but they kind of are. And like, it's all about the holy person and the belief and the fucking Bible. It's all, so like even the movies that are not straight exorcism movies, it's just a lot of it. Cause there's so much still supernatural stuff coming out.
But
Even,
like
Who
the supernatural
Sarah
stuff doesn't have
is a like a religious movie.
Well, some of it comes down to like context and like if they're pushing messages and stuff, where because like Pope's Exorcist, that's part of what makes this one fun is they're not preachy at all. You don't feel like you're taking in a church sermon, even though this is a very Catholic and very Catholic church, right?
Yeah, you're not being like asked to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior as you're watching this movie. No, I mean, Eric, look, like we could definitely sit here and come up with like purely secular horror movies. There are plenty, like those exist. A lot of the slashers, obviously, like, but anything that has any kind of like haunting element, you're immediately like, okay, now there's a ghost. Where is the ghost coming from? Is it coming from heaven or hell? Like,
what happened in its life that it needs to have resolved? So that
this
we
is
can
where
move
like
on.
Insidious is. I can't remember if there's any. I assume there's some Christian overtones in that, but it's pretty secular because like as much as we joke about the further, or whatever, the fuck, like it's basically hell, but like not.
I think
hell,
that in my mind,
Yeah.
I think that in my mind, I crossed them all over with the Warrens movies.
Well, yeah. No, those when we joke about the Wandaverse, like the Insidious movies are technically a different universe than the Conjuring movies. Annabelle and the Nun are part of the Conjuring universe.
Nun, obviously much more overtly religious.
It's called the Nun, so yes, it's religious.
I don't know, but also, at least for me, it depends on how goofy they're leaning into, like the Catholic mythos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This stuff with the way they're laying out this little world and the demons, because they're these sites where the angels fell to earth, and there's hundreds of them and whatnot. That's building kind of a fantastical element around it, and it's fun. But even if you get into like the demonology and the weird stuff, that's what makes the religious movies more fun to me.
Well, yeah, because the other example is like the Paranormal Activity movies, which are demon movies and like rely on a lot of Judeo-Christian kind of nonsense in sort of explaining what's going on with the demon. But there's no religious stuff in those movies, at least that I can like. At any point, does a priest like come to the house in those movies? I can't remember.
I think they had one of them. They had a bruja come, didn't they? She
Yeah,
was doing
well,
spells.
but exactly, like that's not. I mean,
Yeah, that's not Christian.
that's certainly not. Yeah,
No, but
sacrosanct.
like, if we're talking about demons, that's enough for me to be like, yeah, all right, like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and like the most recent Paranormal Activity one, the one that's like the Amish village or something like that. You know, it's Christianish, I guess, but
you know
it's
what
not
I really want to see, and
Jesus-y.
this movie made me think about it, and not the Conjuring, the original Insidious, like almost does this in an interesting way. I am obsessed with those old religious books and their actual depictions of demons, those just insane, crazy looking things that they drew, and no one's ever just fully done that, just taken that at face value and been like, this is what a demon looks like. The Insidious demon is probably the closest I've seen to it because they're silly. They kind of look like Where the Wild Things Are crossed with like a demon. Like I want to see full, out of proportion, weirdly drawn, like those things just
Oh, I
printed
see.
to
Yeah.
film.
I
I
know what
think
you're
that
talking
would be
about.
kind of amazing, honestly.
Well, speaking of that, I meant to bring this up in the main show discussion, but that's what kind of made me chuckle with this movie too. They went with Asmodeus, or I think is how they pronounced it.
Yeah.
I've also heard it
Asmodeus.
pronounced Asmodeus. That's a pretty big demon.
Well,
From
and yeah, and like they do set that up like he's like
Yeah.
the king demon basically.
they kind of came out swinging that way.
Yeah.
Here's for you, Schnars. Will David Gordon Green's Exorcist be better or worse than this?
Oh,
Maybe worse. Maybe worse, guys.
Honestly, if it's better, I'm gonna be really excited.
remember, we liked the first Halloween.
That's a very safe
Yeah.
thing to say, John. If it's better, I'll be excited.
No, I mean like honestly, I'm gonna go in with pretty low expectations and be pleasantly surprised. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
I would go in with reasonable expectations. I'm going in with reasonable expectations and expecting him, if he gets a sequel, that's where he's going to fuck it up.
There. Yeah.
Got
Got him. We tricked him into this one.
Can you guys review the 1981 movie Possession?
Oh, that's been on the
Oh,
top
that's
of
a
our
great
list.
movie.
It's been
Yeah.
high on the list.
I thought we did, but maybe I just watched it.
Yeah, I think you did watch it, and then we talked.
It was
about
on
doing
Joe
it.
Bob, I think, wasn't it?
I watched
Nice.
it before that, but I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was on Shudder. I don't know if it still is, but
Maybe that's
had
what it
for, like,
was.
a month or two.
Last
Because our friend Joe Ferry got very excited on Slack when it hit Shudder. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a decent little movie. For old time's sake, what does Movie Guide think of the Pope's Exorcist? And I pulled it up, John, if you're curious.
Is it still a functioning website? I assume.
You bet your sweet ass it is, John.
Little boy with potty mouth.
Content -2. Extreme. So for those who don't remember, the Movie Guide is like a very religious-y Christian website that aims to grade content for like parents, or I suppose just any God-fearing person, to say like, hey, how is this?
Should you take your child?
Let's see. Do I need to read all this? Despite its sensationalized shenanigans, The Pope's Exorcist has a surprisingly strong Christian worldview, with a terrific performance by Russell Crowe as Father Amort. The movie has many strong Christian references to the Holy Trinity, Jesus, the armor of God, prayer, faith, confession, absolution, forgiveness, and compassion. Eventually, faith conquers demonic evil, but not without an intense struggle. However, the demon in the Pope's Exorcist spouts many obscenities and lurid insults against the priest and the family. The movie also has many scary, violent scenes and brief nudity in 2 scenes, so Movie Guide advises extreme caution. Content.
It's a very Christian movie. Like this movie is. There's a lot of doing this going on.
This is, of course, where where they run down the content. Very strong Christian worldview with some biblical moral elements about a real life, and this is all just run on sentence, about a real life Roman Catholic priest who's the chief exorcist for the Vatican, with very strong references to the Holy Trinity, Jesus, the blah, 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 I read all that. Plus, a mother's love as compared to the love of God. But the movie's main story about a young boy who's possessed by a powerful demon is a fictionalized, sensationalized story that depicts Satan and his demons as more powerful than they really are. This guy knows exactly how powerful they are, John.
Yeah.
About 22 obscenities, including 15 F words, 6 light profanities, an obscene gesture. A possessed character spits up a dead red bird, and character vomits blood in one scene.
They didn't even mention it was the Pope that vomited.
I know.
The blood.
You'd think they'd have to
That's
do a Hail
holy
Mary or
blood.
something, right?
I mean, man, then there's just like a whole paragraph of every violent thing that happens, and then some crude sexual references and strong sexual languages by the evil demon in the movie who taunts the Vatican priest, a local priest, and the possessed boy's mother and teenage. Why are you telling me all this? God damn it. Plus, a priest mentions a past affair, and another priest fails to help a female victim of a third priest. Upper female nudity in 2 scenes. In the second scene, there's a demonic vision of a totally nude dead woman shot from behind and the side who's covered in blood.
Yeah.
I do declare.
Oh, I like this is my favorite part. We'll end here. Miscellaneous immorality. This is like a section. And it just says teenage girl is rebellious and disrespectful to her mother.
She is. She
That's
was
the kind-
sitting on that
that's-
banister. It
that's-
was making me real anxious.
That's the kind of shit that I want to see on Movie Guide. It's just like rebellious.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good.
R.I.P.
times.
Mark. Just
Yeah.
kidding. He's still alive. He lives.
Mark
in
did it better.
Tallahassee. It's
Let's
fine.
just
Yeah,
agree.
Debatable. We share most of the same DNA. So
I did try to search while we were talking for the guy who did the voice. I'm like 95% sure, and I just couldn't find it. I couldn't find him. I was trying to like search all these old movies to see.
So it was like a voice guy you recognized or an actor you recognized?
It's definitely it sounds exactly like a specific British/Irish actor, and I was trying to like
Interesting.
search a bunch of movies. I was looking on Game of Thrones because I'm like, I may be using Game of Thrones. It's like no, I couldn't, whatever. I couldn't dig it up.
So you're out for 2 weeks, John. Do we know what the next like theatrical film would be?
The next theatrical is still not for a couple weeks. We have the Boogeyman on June. The episode will come out June 9th. I think the movie comes out June 2nd. So we got a couple. We got like 2 weeks here. We got a program.
The Boogeyman.
It's this is the one that's based. It's like Stephen
I've
King's The Boogeyman.
Okay, I've seen the
Yeah.
trailer, but none of it's sticking with me.
Yeah, it's rated PG-13, which makes me
Lame.
yeah.
Whatever. I don't care. All right. I don't know what's going on next week. Then we'll figure it out. We had what's that other movie we had queued up, John?
Well, Soft and Quiet.
Do you want to save that for when you're back?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can do it if you want. It's on Netflix.
Do I want to like on a?
Kinsey, you watched it, right?
I haven't watched it yet.
What's the
Oh, I thought
fart
you did.
smelling vibe from like 1 to 10?
I don't think it's super fart smelling. It's
Yeah.
not. It is not. It is a. It's like a thriller. It's.
Alright.
I don't think there's like supernatural stuff going on. Let's put it that way.
I could get into that, perhaps.
Okay.
I kind of got cult vibes from the plot drop on IMDb.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know like a little more about it, but I don't want to say too much.
oh, did I just spoil something?
No.
You know, we're almost into June here, which means that we're going to be getting a lot more good, hopefully good horror releases. So
Well, the theatrical, just to run it down quickly, we've got Boogeyman, Brooklyn 45, which is coming out on Shudder, and then The Blackening. Did we talk about The Blackening? Have you guys seen the trailer for The Blackening?
Yeah.
no,
It looks
or maybe
very good. Like
I
I laughed and was uncomfortable at my laughing at it. Like it's yeah. Just go watch the trailer. I'm very excited, and we have to cover it.
Yeah.
But and
that
then we
looks
get a couple
fun.
weeks. Then there's the new Insidious movie. Once we hit August, it's legit like 2 straight months of theatrical releases. So we may have to make some decisions in there. We'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you can get a live stream of this show at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror and send us live questions on YouTube as we had tonight.
Sure.
Thanks, Levi.
Yeah.
That's gonna do it for the Pope's Exorcist. Hope you enjoy the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.